Hi everyone, here's my attempt to teach without walls for week 2. I am here at the Marian Anderson Recreation Center in Philadelphia. This is right down the street from me, and I live in the Marian Anderson neighborhood. The rec center, for the most part, is closed at this point, although they have opened up the playground for kids, and looks like the basketball court is also open for individuals. But I live in the Marian Anderson neighborhood here in Philadelphia. She was born in a house right down the street on the same block that I live on. And then she grew up in a house that is a few blocks away from here that is now a house museum, a small museum, and is maintained by a singer who I believe whose teacher was taught by Marian Anderson. So kind of an important place in this community. We'll see how well this works. There's a helicopter overhead, so if it's really hard to hear, I apologize. I'll re-record. There might be a demonstration today. Actually, I'm not totally sure. So about week 2, I realized when I did my recording about week 1 that I mostly talked about what you would do or what I'm asking you to do rather than why. And this week I thought I'd lean a little bit further into the why. Although I feel like the what is helpful to talk about because in Blackboard you just end up with a lot of text to read and lots of instructions. And I know that can be frustrating. So I'm trying to figure out how to make the kind of activities that I'm suggesting you work on during the week, how to make them a little bit more clear and more easily accessible. So as a teacher myself, I'm always trying to figure out how to use this tool that Johns Hopkins, I don't love Blackboard, but it's what Johns Hopkins provides. So how do I use this tool better? And part of it might be providing some video description of what I'm thinking about and why I'm thinking about it, and you can let me know if that's helpful. It's kind of funny having Marian Anderson, we're like the same size the way I'm sitting here. Of course, she is much looms large. Okay, so the second week we're going to continue to kind of get to know each other and get set up and practice with some of the tools that we'll be using this semester. I read somewhere recently in a thing about teaching writing or teaching online that the first, or really teaching anywhere, I think this pertains to offline too, that the first 2 weeks are kind of, often or first 2 meetings are often dedicated to the setup of the class and just sort of getting used to what we'll be doing together and why we'll be doing it. So that's true in this class. So like last week when I had a voice thread that was curated, partially curated already around the prompt why I write, this week there's another one that's around why I teach. And so my intention is to have you sort of interactive with it the same way. So take some time with the different things that I've curated there already. Think about this prompt from your own context and your own interests, and then upload something or create something that you upload there to respond to the prompt why I teach. And the reason for doing why I write and why I teach, I think it's kind of multifold, but both these are sort of low stakes writing opportunities for us to play with tools and play with technologies. But I also think it's really important to talk about why we teach, because when we start to move to teaching online, a lot of and Beth Reimer, in a video that you'll watch this week, she talks about how what we value in teaching writers transfers to online space. It doesn't change just because we're online. The core values really stay the same, even if the space is different. So I really want us to think about, why do we teach? Like, ground ourselves in why do we teach? Why do we write? Ground ourselves in that, because in order to be teachers of writing, we have to really think about, why do we write? What are our purposes? What's at stake? What's hard about it? What's exciting about it, etc. So there's another. So basically, go back to VoiceThread. You'll see the way I teach VoiceThread there. You should click into it, go through all the slides, comment if you want, and then make your own addition to it. The one new thing that I added this week as sort of part 2 is a more scaffolded or supportive response process. So I picked a response tool that I've used a lot with just text-based writing, but I think it works for multimodal. Like, if you adjust it a little bit, it works for images and video too. But these are some guidelines created by Peter Elbow and Belanoff, and what I like about them is that they both are kind of creative and let you sort of ask a range of questions, or suggest a range of questions you could ask about your writing. And they also include an opportunity to ask for no feedback. And I think it's important for writers to own their own writing, to be in control of their own writing, and be able to, ask for the kind of feedback they need. And at some point, any one of us might be in a position where, like, I don't need feedback right now. I just want to sort of hold on to this for a second. So that's legitimate too. So that's one of the. So let's use that response guideline this week. That would mean that you would post into Why I Teach, and then you would you would add like a video or an audio commentary, or textually you would say, this is the kind of feedback I'm looking for, and then all of us would come in and give you and respond to more specifically the kind of feedback that you've asked for. Okay, so that's the kind of making activity this week. I also included a link to a tool called Padlet, and I put together kind of a toolbox of tools that we might use in teaching and writing online. And it's an incomplete toolbox, and it's also a toolbox where everything's thrown in there. So it may or may not be the most useful thing, and we can adjust if it's not. But I tried to sort of share a bunch of tools that over the couple semesters of teaching and writing online we've been using. People have said we're good. We can keep adding to this, and all of you should be able to add to that Padlet. So there's no pressure to add anything or use it right now. I just wanted to include it in case you were thinking about what tools could I experiment with this week. There are a range of tools in there for composing that you might find interesting. Then a big sort of piece of this week, we're going to do one social reading together, and it's a social reading of a blog post that I put together that includes 3 videos. So because it has both text and videos, I chose a tool called Now Comment. And I'm going to invite you into Now Comment, so you should check your email and respond to get yourself signed up for Now Comment through that email. But once you're signed up, you'll find a link that gets you into this blog post I wrote, and gives you the ability to both comment on the text as well as comment on the videos. And I'd like us to socially read this blog post and watch these videos together. And so social reading and annotation is something that I want to introduce into this class. I find it a very effective tool for teaching really anything online. It's an important way to work asynchronously together, and I have always found it very provocative to see how other people read the same text that I'm reading. We'll probably spend our first face-to-face meeting talking about annotation, because I find it a very compelling topic. This week, I'm just asking you to sort of, what do you notice in this blog post and in these videos, and what do you wonder about? So very simple. I'm just asking you to sort of go through it. What do you notice? What do you wonder? And you can also respond to each other. So if there's things that you notice that other people noticed, you might want to start a dialogue in the margins. But this is a practice that we'll sort of try to unpack all semester, and because you can do annotation in lots of different ways, and or social reading. I like to call it social reading and annotation. And we'll use a range of tools. So the first two tools that we'll use are now comment, which is good for, as I said, video, and you can also annotate images. And then we'll also use a tool called hypothesis. And hypothesis is really good for stuff that's already online. So if you have a newspaper article, also a blog post, some sort of like open source text or something, you can make hypothesis engage on top of that text, and you can annotate right there. So it's an important tool to look at too. And this week I'd like you to sign up for hypothesis and read a few articles about it. We won't use it until next week. Actually, in my work, we've been developing a project called the Marginal Syllabus, and there's an article about that to give you some background, but just to give you a sense of how, in my work, I've used hypothesis. Okay, and then two more things, sorry. There are several pieces this week, but I'd really love you to post your blog post this week about teaching writing online, COVID, and kind of the moment that we're living in, and some of your thoughts about it. So, it can be about, your experience. It could be about your worries, your fears. It can be about, your anticipation about what's ahead, how it impacts you, how it impacts your family, your students, etc. How it impacts us educationally when we're thinking about teaching, education in society. Lots of things to talk about right now. So post your blog post this week so we can all find it. And if you don't post your blog directly in Blackboard, do come back to Blackboard and include a link so we all can see your blog. So we'd like to post our blogs and then read each other's blogs. I don't really have guidelines for commenting. You're welcome to comment if something moves you, but I think more importantly, we just want to sort of read each other's thinking and share together. Finally, this week we'll do our first self-assessment. So the idea is to use the self-assessment guide that I've provided to really think about, okay, we're 2 weeks in here, how are you doing specifically around connecting? How are you starting to connect to the goals of this class? Are you starting to connect to each other? Are you starting to connect online? Are you starting to connect to your own interests and ambitions? How are you connecting? So we'll just focus on connecting, and I've asked you about connecting when it comes to writing online, when it comes to learning online, and when it comes to teaching online. So if you can use that grid, I don't really care how you use it, but think about where you are on a continuum from I am connecting fully all the time to I'm not really connecting so much. Think about where you might be on that continuum, and then just do a reflective kind of piece, blog post length, couple paragraphs, whatever, about those three aspects of your work: writing online, learning online, and teaching online. Okay, and this will just get us started. And you post that as you post it up as an assignment, and I'm the only one who sees it. and then over the next week, I'll respond to it, okay? So this will give us a sense of, this is, as you know already from the syllabus, this is a process we'll do 5 times this year. So this is the first time to sort of get started with that and see how it feels, and think about its connections to the work of this class and to your ambitions for this class, and how you might use those self-assessments along the way. All right, I think this is probably long enough. It's quite long now, so apologies for that. The sun is coming out. It's turning out to be a really beautiful day here in Philadelphia. So I hope everybody else is in a place where it's quite beautiful, and have a lovely day and week ahead.